On paper, Outriders is the kind of game I enjoy. It's got a sci-fi world, tons of loot to collect, a solid story with a lot of characters, different classes and opportunities to create different builds, magic-like abilities, and massive creatures to fight. But when I first started playing, something didn't click for me, and it wasn't until much later that I actually began to enjoy myself. It's not a bad game by any means, but I don't think it'll be winning any Game of the Year awards either. I feel it's a game of two halves. I found it fun, but forgettable. It felt fragmented. You play as an Outrider, a member of a team of elite soldiers tasked with preparing the way for the colonists of Enoch. This strange planet is to be the new home of humankind, but Enoch is a dangerous place, and it only grows more hazardous as time goes on. Soon you are thrust into the middle of a great war, and with new powers awakening within you, you find yourself on the front lines, doing what you do best.
You paid.
The story isn't bad, but it is cheesy. The characters spout cliche after cliche, and every scene is full of shaky camera effects. However, this does die down a little as the story progresses.
This is real, believe me, it's fucking real. So whether you like it or not, you're stuck here in the mud and shit like the rest of us.
It is well thought out and relatively long, but I found I was only half paying attention to any of it. They try to make out that your Outrider is an absolute badass, which in some ways they are, but in others, they're kinda useless. So many cutscenes left me rolling my eyes, especially in the early game. A character appears acting all tough, then moments later, something happens to them and boom, it was all for nothing. There's no reason for it other than to reinforce the horror of war or the dangers of Enoch. It made everything seem pointless to me. Your Outrider stands there watching it all happen, apathetic, and I kept wishing they would do something. I stopped caring about any of the characters I met because I knew they would probably get their head blown off anyway. It did get better as the game went on, the characters were still over the top and the dialogue was still cheesy. Still, there was a big enough break in between these sections that I didn't feel overloaded by it. My biggest issue was not the story itself, because although it is incredibly predictable, it was still enjoyable. My problem was with the characters in the story. None of them were particularly likable, and I didn't care about what happened to any of them.
I'll let you die, you stupid cow!
Most you meet once and then never see again. Others are built up as being super important and then forgotten almost instantly. But okay, who plays games for the story anyway? The combat itself is pretty fun. Loot drops at a steady rate and the weapons are standard for the most part, rifles, SMGs and pistols. They handle well and they feel impactful. The real fun though comes from the mods that you can attach to them. There are a good number of options and some will make bullets ricochet between enemies, others will replenish your health or create chains that bind the enemy and do damage over time. These mods make the combat a lot more fun, and there are good opportunities to create some exciting builds. And as the game progresses, it helps to put a little thought into what extra damage perks will fit your playstyle. You can also upgrade your weapons and armor as you go, so you can customize everything to your liking, and really hone in on a playstyle that suits you. The same goes for the abilities. There are 4 classes to choose from, and all have a skill tree that lets you progress to a more specific endgame build. I played as a pyromancer and had great fun turning enemies into a smouldering pile of ash. The abilities all have status effects attached to them, for instance some of mine would ignite the enemy, or interrupt or restore health. These modifiers made using them feel a little more tactical, as you would sometimes need to time an interrupt. But for the most part the recharge was fast enough to allow you to use them as much as you wanted. Some abilities are downright devastating and feel really satisfying to use, especially when you can line up a big group of enemies and turn them all to toast. The enemies mainly consist of humans from different factions, and a few of these also have special abilities like you, which makes for some fun engagements. There are some funny little quirks in AI, for example, as soon as you enter cover, they start bombarding you with perfectly aimed grenades to force you to move. If you stand behind a wall and don't push the button to activate the cover mechanic, they won't throw any at all, and you can pick them off with no real issues. There are also a lot of aliens to fight, ranging from savage dog-like things to giant lava beetles, and some downright enormous monstrosities. I found these to be more fun to fight than the human enemies, as they felt more aggressive. Even the ranged ones would rush at you and force you to react quickly, which was a nice change of pace. Some of the boss fights are great fun, and although they are bullet sponges as you would expect, the mechanics change a little and keep them from feeling too repetitive. For me, the difficulty options are what Outriders does best. There are 15 levels of difficulty that they call world tiers. You start on the lowest difficulty, which is very easy, and as you play you unlock the higher difficulties. Once unlocked, you can switch to the higher difficulty if you want, or stay on your current world tier and melt your way through the mobs. The benefits of higher world tiers are basically better loot, so there is a good incentive to keep moving up. It also keeps the enemies feeling challenging, rather than allowing your gear score to outmatch them. Whenever things became a little too easy, I found that I would unlock a new world tier and move up to bring the challenge back into the game. The design of the levels itself was pretty good, though it is very linear. There's a good variety in the areas, and every one of them feels a little bit different from the last. There are abandoned towns, snowy mountains, lava-filled volcanoes, quarries, no man's land style front lines, monster-filled forests and more. There are many cover options around if you feel the need to duck behind a wooden fence for some reason, but for the most part it's a straight shot through the zone every time. Every area is separated into smaller chunks, and there are doors and other interactions that will allow you to journey between them. There's no exploration involved save for running around to find the 1 or 2 chests in each zone. Still, the environments are pretty nice to look at if you feel the need to stand around and take a break from the action. At launch, there was a lot of talk about frequent disconnects. One of the reasons I chose to play the game now rather than back at release was because I saw online that they'd actually fixed this. Well, unfortunately they haven't. I had a lot of disconnects while playing. I had 3 while I was trying to create my character. I counted 17 disconnects total during my time playing, which is a lot. They seem to come in bursts. I would be playing for a couple of hours, then get 3 or 4 disconnects in a row, and then I'd be safe for a couple more hours. Once the campaign is over, the game continues into expeditions, and the real challenge begins. There's a good number to choose from, and the difficulty ramps up a bit from the story mode. I'm sure someone will mention that this is a co-op game, and I did try to group up multiple times to experience that aspect, but I couldn't find a party. Overall, Outriders is a pretty good game and deserves at least a try.
Jacob.
If you just want to run around blasting aliens with modded weapons and special abilities, then you'll probably be satisfied. If you are looking for a deep story with a cast of memorable characters, you'll likely be disappointed. I can't remember the name of any of them, and I only stopped playing a short while ago. Anyway, that's my review of Outriders. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like if you did, and let me know your thoughts on the game down in the comments. That's all from me on this one. See you in the next one.